Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Cat Chat Live. My name is Nancy Stevens, and I have the pleasure of working with parent family communication here at UK. And I am so glad that you made time to join us for a Merit Day and Bluegrass Day summer check-in. We understand that it has been a few months since you were on campus with us for your Students Orientation Day. And at the time that you were here, you had a split focus between wrapping up your students' high school experience and thinking about the college transition. So we suspect that now that summer is here, you are focused in a different way on that college transition coming your students' way. And so we are going to walk you through some things going on this summer, things we hope your student will be taken care of, and we will be happy to answer some questions here at the end. I'm joined today by a few folks who you'll get to see shortly, but I'll be tag teaming today's presentation with my friend and colleague, Michaela Kofer, our Director of Orientation and Early College Outreach. And then behind the scenes, as always, is my parent and family engagement colleague, Kate, who will be dropping links and things like that you need in the chat. And then we're also joined today by a current UK student who was in your student's shoes a year ago. And so you'll get to hear from Olivia and some of her experiences as well. But before we get things started, I always like to start our Cat Chat Lives with some housekeeping items. We do have some slides to review with you today. So we ask that you please hold your questions until the designated Q&A time after those slides have been presented. We may be anticipating your question and we'll answer it before you even get there. We'll use Zoom's Q&A feature for you to communicate with us today. We'll be putting things, links of interest and things like that in the chat for you, but the way you'll communicate with us is through the Q&A feature. We try to keep these Cat Chat Live webinars at no more than an hour, and so we'll take as many questions as we can in the allotted time. If you're not able to join us for the entirety of today's webinar, that's totally okay. The recording will be posted in the Cat Chat family community later today so that you can go back and reference it, or if you weren't able to catch all of it, you can see it there. If at any point you have questions about your students' UK experience, you are always welcome to email parents@uky.edu for assistance, and we'll make sure that you get connected with the office that is best able to support your student and the question that you're asking for them. And with every Cat Chat Live webinar at the end, you'll receive a survey, just a brief one asking you to reflect on how helpful the Cat Chat Live was and what additional questions you have that we may need to cover in other content in our Cat Chat family community or in other Cat Chat Live webinars. Speaking of other Cat Chat Live webinars, we are really about to launch our more robust summer series of webinars with the families of incoming students like you in mind. And so I've just listed the July dates on the screen that you can see. There are more scheduled for August leading up to Big Blue Move-In. You can find registration links for all of these webinars in the Cat Chat family community, and more information about what we'll be covering. A week from today, we will be highlighting a new program that this year's incoming students are having the opportunity to participate in for the first time. It's called Big Blue Start. Our students have gotten a couple of emails about it, and we've sent a couple of emails to families through the Cat Chat family community. But we know you may have questions or want additional information, and so a week from today, we'll be together to talk about that. Another fun one that I always like to highlight, especially while I've got orientation friends here on today's webinar with me, is on Friday, July 10th, the What I Wish My Family Knew student panel recap. You may recall that the What I Wish My Family Knew panel was part of your students' Merit Day or Bluegrass Day experience. And it's always so fun to hear what questions you have and to hear how our first year experience ambassadors answer them. And so on July 10th, a group of our first year experience ambassadors will be recapping the questions that they got most through this year's orientation cycle and giving you an opportunity to ask any questions you may not have asked while you were at your students' orientation. Throughout today's presentation, I think you'll hear us referring to these other Cat Chat Live topics that we have coming up because, again, we know that you have questions about things like move-in, meal plans, parking permits, campus safety, all of those things. And so we will be spending an hour with each of these campus partners during these upcoming Cat Chat Live webinars. So I hope you're able to join us live for some of them or able to watch the recordings for the ones that most apply to you and your incoming Wildcat. I mentioned the Cat Chat family community several times already during today's webinar. I hope that this is a resource that you're taking advantage of. I know I'm a little biased because part of my job is to keep this updated and full of good content for parents and families of our students. But want to remind you that you can take full advantage of all of its features by going in and completing your profile, telling us a little bit more about your interests, your students' interests, their experience, so that it can tailor the content that you see in your email newsletters. And you can also tell us how often you want to receive those email newsletters. Information is going into Cat Chat every day that I'm in the office. So would encourage you to consider a weekly newsletter, but the system will default you to a bi-weekly newsletter unless you say otherwise. But there's a lot of other good things happening in the Cat Chat family community. Event calendars, currently registration for our upcoming family weekend celebration, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it makes it easy for you to share information with your Wildcat, to ask us questions based on the content you're seeing. So I do hope you're taking full advantage of the Cat Chat family community. And then I think that's maybe all of my housekeeping, but want to then shift gears and start talking about some of the things that may be on your students' to-do list for this summer, or things that we hope will be on your students' to-do list this summer. So we're going to spend some time together today talking about your Wildcat's path to the first day of classes. And the basis for our content is a handout. Handout kind of dates me, doesn't it? Okay, it's a digital file that is available on the orientation website. And Kate's going to put the link in the chat to this, this file that we're going to be talking about that outlines some things that your student needs to be taking care of. So in covering all of these things that are on your students' to-do list, or again, we hope are on their to-do list, I want to remind you that your role is to be supporting their independence on this college journey. I talked about it at orientation, but we know that our students are in different places and being able to manage some of these tasks on their own. And so a really helpful place for you all to be supporting them is by encouraging them to check their UK email regularly. You may want to sit down with them and talk to them a little bit about maybe how you stay on top of all the emails that you receive, maybe teaching them about a focused inbox or creating rules so that the most important emails don't get lost in the shuffle. But we really want our Wildcats to be creating a habit of checking their UK email regularly, because that is how we'll be communicating a lot of updates and expectations and things that we want them to take advantage of. I think it's also important for parents and families to be hopefully helpfully inquiring students about their plans to complete the tasks that are in their UK email. Notice it didn't say that you need to take care of these tasks for them, but to ask them about their plans to complete these tasks. And again, depending on where you feel like your student is, you may have to be a little bit more persistent than with some of our other students. I'm thinking about myself as a parent, and some of the helpful nudges, I'm sure my son would think of them as helpful, the helpful nudges that I give him along the way. At orientation, I always talk to families about, whether they might want to consider scheduling a weekly check-in with their incoming college student. And so that can be really helpful as a time that both you and your student come to the table, whether it's, over a cup of coffee or a dessert or a treat or whatever. I'm not above bribing students to, come and have the conversations that we want them to have. But a weekly check-in can be a really great place for you to walk through the list of things that they need to do, where they stand on them, are they running into any issues with them. If at any point your student is confused about any of this, we understand there's a learning curve in starting college for the first time. So please do encourage your student to reach out to UK staff whenever they have questions or concerns or just want clarification on anything that they're seeing. I think it's important that students start learning to advocate for themselves And so, we're telling you that we're happy to answer your questions, but I think this is also a really good time for our students to start practicing reaching out to UK staff and asking for support. And for some of our students, that'll be a little easier than others. And you know your student best. You know what they're capable of, and we trust that you will encourage them in the way that makes most sense for them. So I'm going to turn things over now to McKaylee to walk you through some of the things that we have been communicating with our incoming students about here in the last few weeks. So McKaylee, take things away.
Thank you, Nancy. As she mentioned, your student will have received UK emails and will continue to receive emails that really give them a lot of information about some of these next steps. We'll go through them kind of about things to do and be aware of now, some things to do kind of in the next few weeks, and some things just to be aware of as classes start. The link that Kate put in the chat has kind of a website version of this information we'll cover. There's also a printable version of that website. It's kind of like a checklist that if you want to go through them and check them off. This is something that was actually new this year. We have learned from orientations in the past, as well as this transition time, that families and students would love a checklist. And so we are excited to provide this year. But some of those big next steps, one of the most important, if not the most important, I know my partners in housing and the ID office say this is the most important. It's ensuring students have set up their wildcard ID. So at UK, a student's ID is now actually a mobile credential that they can add to their phone's wallet. So similar to how you can have a credit card on your phone that you can then scan and pay, a student's ID is now found on their phone. Now, if they would like or need a physical ID version, that is still available, but most students do activate their ID and have that ID on their smartphone. So students have received emails about this. You can also find information on the website that Kate just included, but basically the ID is an app that students will download. They can upload a picture. They can also check and make sure they've paid for that ID. And then once that is all taken care of, their ID is activated. Students will need to make sure this is activated if they are living on campus prior to move-in. It is needed for move-in to make sure move-in is successful. So do make sure over the next few weeks to ensure that that ID is activated and is working correctly ahead of move-in. Now, speaking of move-in, if a student is living on campus, they will need to schedule a move-in appointment. So this is a 30-minute time slot that you will sign up for. The student will sign up for in their My UK portal in the housing app there to pick the date and the time that they would like 30 minutes of curbside service, as I like to call it. But you get to pull up to the curb for those 30 minutes, unload all of your items. I know 30 minutes sounds daunting, but you get much more time than that to move in. But it's that 30 minutes that you get to pull up to the curb, unload your items, take them up to the room, and then after that, you have plenty more time to move in and make sure everything is situated. This move-in appointment really allows the housing office, as well as UK campus traffic and all of that, to ensure that things are moving and flowing efficiently. So do make sure to sign up for that move-in appointment. Speaking of move-in as well, I encourage you all to review the what to bring and what not to bring list for move-in. So there are a few items that housing encourages students to bring, or just a quick reminder of, hey, make sure I brought this item. There's also items that students are not allowed to have in their residence halls. I will note many of these are fire hazards, so getting a good idea of what could be a fire hazard and that is not allowed so that you don't have to pack it and worry about bringing it all to campus. Um, Check that what to bring and what not to bring list. Before I move on, I'm going to turn it over to Olivia, our current student. She also attended Merit Day, so she is in the same boat of your students to talk a little bit about what she recommends to bring and what not to bring.
So, my biggest advice is definitely to check that list as much as you can, because I did bring my air fryer. Rest in peace, air fryer. I did bring my air fryer, and unfortunately, those are very much not allowed. Um, so, my Paula Deen air fryer did have to go back home with my grandparents, but I miss it every day. But luckily, I still have, like, the dining hall, and a fully working kitchen inside the dorm. So I didn't really need the air fryer anyway, even though I wanted it and I still miss it dearly. I would have probably never used it, so there was no reason for me to bring it really anyway.
Thank you, Olivia. You will notice during move-in, it is a very smooth process. You will also have access to a move-in packet. Your student should have been sent that, but you can reference that on the housing website. I'm sure we can send the link in the chat. But move-in, I understand looking ahead can be stressful, but we have that cat chat, and it really is a pretty smooth process overall. Also moving in, if your student is living on campus, they do need to submit that meningitis vaccination records. Kate is already ahead of me in this chat. So do ensure that that is on the radar, and get all that documentation together. You can submit it online, but just be aware that it does need to be submitted. Students have likely graduated from high school now, and I do know AP and IB scores are rolling in within probably the next week or so. So do be sure that you submit those final transcripts and have those final test scores sent over to UK. We do need that final transcript on file. We do want records of those scores so that your student gets credit for all the hard work that they have put in high school. Speaking of transcripts, if your student earned dual credit, we will also need a final transcript from the institution that they received the dual credit from. So even if that dual credit class appears on their high school transcript, they will still need to send a final transcript from the college and the awarding institution in order to receive credit for that class. So ensure those final transcripts within the next few weeks, send those over to our admissions office. Next thing to be aware of is the parking permits will go on sale here in the next few weeks, is having that conversation with your student on if they would like to bring a car. Now, freshmen, first year students, any student is allowed to bring a car on campus. We don't have any restrictions on that. But if they are bringing a car, you will want to purchase a parking permit. Those will go on sale for our new incoming students on July 21st. So you can keep that date in your mind. But I would have that conversation with them about what bringing a car to campus looks like, the need for it, how they plan to get around, do they plan to travel around campus. You heard it probably during orientation, but campus has a lot of ways to navigate around campus and around Lexington, even if your student does not bring a car. Transportation services is one of the future CAT chats, and so they can talk more about it. But do start to have that conversation. You can look at the parking maps and seeing what kind of where some of those parking locations are as well in relation to if your student's a resident, if they're a commuter. So just start to have that conversation ahead of when permits go on sale. So when they do go on sale, you know what you're looking for. Nancy touched on it earlier, but Big Blue Start is a new program that we are really excited just rolled out this year for our incoming students. So you heard a little bit about UK Invest at orientation. Your student has likely gotten information about it, but UK Invest in general is a fantastic first of its kind program across the nation where students get to open up a brokerage account and earn money for building those healthy habits and doing things normal college students should do. So going to the gym, so we make sure they're on top of their health and wellness, going to tutoring services, going to different campus events. We can earn hundreds of dollars a semester. And this is a fantastic program that has shown so much progress and success in students that we wanted to start it early this year. And so students, your student now has received information about Big Blue Start, where they can go ahead and start learning about some of these campus resources. They can go ahead and start planning their goals, and they can earn money for doing all of that, for learning this information, for better setting up their transition to UK. They can earn, I believe, up to $200 this summer. So really do encourage students, take advantage of this, check their email. I know they will be a week from now, right? As the Big Blue Start, the UK Invest session. I'm looking at Nancy. She's uncertain. But really excited for students. Encourage your student to check out. It is all through Canvas, which is UK's learning platform, but do encourage them to look at that information. It's a fantastic initiative. Really excited to offer that this summer. Those are our conversations for kind of in the now. But looking ahead to July and August, there are a few more things coming down the line. The first is students all get to receive a UK issued iPad. This is a program that started a few years ago and is great to be able to provide students with not only an iPad, but a Smart Tech Padfolio with the keyboard as well as a pencil. They will get to pick up their UK issued iPad during K Week, which is UK's Welcome Week in August, but they can start to pre-register for that iPad starting July 29th. So for the pickup event, which you can see on the screen with the balloons in that picture, they do need you to register for that iPad so it can be set up for you. So that just notifying that goes on sale starting July 1st. The other thing that is coming down the line, August 1st, is when that student account, that billing, that tuition, all that statement goes onto students' accounts. So tuition statements go onto the accounts starting the first, August 1st and then January 1st of each semester. And then payment is due by August 22nd. Your student will get an email once that statement has gone onto their account, and that is all through our student account services, our billing department. But we do lots of times get questions about when will these charges be coming. So you can keep an eye out that August 1st is when that tuition statement will be billed. Completing required online modules. So every incoming student has three health and wellness modules that they are required to complete. This is alcohol EDU, sexual assault and prevention, and hazing prevention, which is a new one. And so all students are required to complete these modules. They will receive an email to their UK email address. So I've said that a lot already, but still encourage them to check their UK email address. But with the awareness that this is coming down the line, these are required for students to complete. They will have holds on their account to their student account where they register for courses. They'll have holds on their account until these are complete. And so we do need to make sure they complete these required modules within kind of the first few weeks of the semester so that when they look to register for courses for the spring, they don't have these holds on their account. Setting up my chart is something that I always recommend as a student who went to UK and got under the weather a few times. So University Health Services is the student clinic for students on campus. All students are assessed a mandatory health fee each semester that then allows them to use our student health clinic. To use the clinic, it's on campus, it's very convenient. They offer many appointments for when you're feeling under the weather, if you need a well patient visit, but you schedule an appointment through MyChart. I learned that one of the worst things to do when I wasn't feeling well was having to go through all the steps of setting up an account. It's not difficult. It was just the last thing I wanted to do when I was laying in bed, not feeling well. So I do encourage you while you're with your student as well. I do know that step of having to like call the doctor. I never had to make my own appointments when I was a high school student, and so that was new for me too. So walking through that process with my family ahead of coming to campus was just a little beneficial, helped ease some of the anxiety before having to come. Last thing to be on your radar is school spirit and coming to a great college that has some fantastic athletic programs is those student tickets. So students get into free to 21 of the 23 varsity sports by just showing their student ID. But two sports, men's basketball and football, do require students to purchase student tickets. Those will go on sale later on this summer, and students will get an email address to their UK email once those go on sale with some more information. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Olivia as a current student who is aware of some of the student ticketing process to talk just a little bit more about what that's like.
Yeah, so your student may have recently gotten that email saying that student tickets are on sale for football as well as men's basketball. Um, Season tickets are always an option, but that's not an option or a pathway that I took. I personally just bought single game tickets if I wanted to go to a football game or a basketball game. If they're just $15, they may have changed the price, but this past year they were just $15, and they were really easy to buy just on that UK Athletics app. I just connected it with my student ID, and bought my ticket, and it was on my phone. And when I went to the game, I just showed them my ticket like you would any other football game, and it was easy to get in to the student section, and it was really electric. But my favorite student athletics here are actually the ones that I don't have to pay for. I really enjoy our soccer team, as well as a couple of our club sports as well. But those teams that are free are really a really great enjoyment for me. Once again, on that UK Athletics app, you just have to connect it with your student ID, claim a ticket on there for free, and you're in. That's basically it. So definitely come to the free ones. Maybe buy a student ticket. Maybe buy a season pass. Maybe. Who knows?
I will say it has kind of become a bucket list item to go to one of at least one event from every sport. I have found volleyball. We're national runner-ups this past year, and those are always quite electric, to use Olivia's phrase. I also am a soccer fan. World Cup's happening right now, but it's really fun to be able to access all of those sporting events for free around campus quite easily, just once you connect your student ID. Looking ahead to August, we have just a few other things we want students to be aware of. One of those is UK Invests. So Big Blue Start is happening right now, and students can start earning that money. But in order to have it added to their account, they will do that once they officially activate and join UK Invests once that starts in August. And so we want students to join that come August. The money they have earned through Big Blue Start will then be added into their brokerage account, and they can also then start earning for the fall semester by attending those events on campus. So we will be advertising UK Invest everywhere. I can't say enough about it. We have found students are most successful. Students who have joined UK Invest are the most successful students. And so we can't opt in students, but for it if they don't want to be, but I'm saying it here. Take advantage of it. It is a fantastic opportunity. In August or later on this summer, students will also have access to the first year student questionnaire. This is really for UK to learn more about your student, about honestly what they're excited about coming to UK with, what some of their concerns are. And we really great that we get to use this information to better support all students as a whole, but also specifically your student. And so certain concerns that they might bring, certain questions they have, just who they are as a student, we get to use this information to best support them later on in the semester, but just as they're a student at UK. They will complete this in their My UK portal, I believe. Don't quote me on that one. But we do encourage all students to complete this and ask them to complete it so we can best support them later on. I also do encourage students to start looking at some of those apps that we want them to download on their phone. You can find some of these listed in the What's Next app. Some of these are Transit, which is UK's bus tracking system app. I mentioned earlier kind of our parking passes and where students might park, but also getting around campus is very easy. We have a great bus system that runs clockwise and counterclockwise. They stop every 7 to 10 minutes. But I also understand days like today, if you're in Lexington right now, it's 95 degrees outside. So I wouldn't want to have to be waiting outside for the bus. So the Transit app allows you to be tracking the bus. You can wait inside in the closest building, and then hop right on out when you see that bus turn the corner. One of our other great apps is Safe Zone. This is an app put together by UK's police department. So UK has a dedicated police department independent from the city of Lexington, but they operate this app and it really is your safety hub for campus. You can do a virtual escort. So if you are studying late at night at the library or someplace on campus and you just want to make sure you get from point A to point B safely, you can have a UK police officer track your location and provides just that extra layer of security. This is also where you can access UK Alerts, which is UK's kind of emergency alerting system. I know last week it rained pretty heavy in Lexington, so we had a UK alert go out about some just flash flooding areas that to be aware of. There's sometimes if there's a gas leak. I know a few years ago there was a cow loose on campus, so UK alert went out about that. I think it might have done the opposite of intended. I think everyone really wanted to go see the cow, but you can sign up for UK alerts, and families can also sign up for UK alerts as well. The other thing just to be involved with and excited about is getting ready for K Week. K Week is UK's welcome week. It takes place in between move-in and the first day of classes, and there are hundreds of events that take place. There are large-scale events, there are small-scale events, opportunities to connect with student organizations. There's a college meeting, your student gets to connect back with their college, meet new students. It's really just a lot of fun. I'll say I'm old though, so I'm going to turn it over to Olivia to talk about what you can look forward to with K Week. She wants to touch on the Safe Zone app as well. I'm kind of putting that on her, but share what you would like to, Olivia.
Yeah, just to get the Safe Zone app out of the way before we talk about K Week, because I will absolutely get on a soapbox about it because I love student involvement here on campus. But the Safe Zone app is really important for you and your students to both download. I know my grandma sends me the UK alerts every time we get them, like I don't get them myself. And it really makes me feel just cared about. So even though, it's kind of just like, double alert, maybe that's something that you'll want to do to kind of just keep an eye on that, those UK alerts that send out. But looking into K Week, K Week is definitely my favorite event kind of time that I experienced here on campus. Right after I moved in, I went to a Lewis launch event, which I'm a part of the honors college, so that's kind of like a pre-start to K Week for those honors students. And at an event there, I met a lot of friends that I'm actually still friends with to this day. And we went to quite a few different events here in K Week. My favorite was the one that they had in Alumni Commons, where all those student organizations line up and kind of introduce each other, to kind of introduce themselves to students. And I'll actually get to be on the opposite side of that this coming August. I'll get to be tabling for my student organization and telling people about it. And so I'm really looking forward to K Week, and I encourage you to encourage your student to attend all K Week events, whether they go to the small ones or the large ones. Just attend at least one, if not all.
Attend all of them. That's a great advice. But those are kind of some of our just steps we want students to be aware of, but also families to be aware of as well, because I do know how much I looked to my family members when I was coming in. I also, as Nancy has talked about, needed some nudges as well, in terms of I was concerned about what curtains I was going to bring, but I also probably needed to be aware of some of these other items as well. If I need to get my ID, or I can't even then be concerned about my curtains that I'm going to have in my room if I don't have my ID activated to get into my room. So it was great to have my families aware of just some of these, as well as the timeline of what are some things to focus on right now, but then also looking ahead, kind of that sequential path. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Nancy to talk about more on that family side.
Thank you so much, Michaela and Olivia, for going through those things. So many of these topics, and I was kind of adding some comments in the chat. So many of these topics are part of the upcoming Cat Chat Live webinar series, and so we'll go into a lot more detail, and you'll hear directly from the offices behind each of those areas. So I really encourage you to check out the full Cat Chat Live schedule of events in the Cat Chat family community, so you can choose what you want to learn more about and what you want to ask questions about. As I mentioned, as we were getting started, I think the most important thing that you can do in this time with your student is continue supporting their independence, especially when they're under your roof and you can watch how they're responding to this. Sometimes we see incoming students, because they're maybe nervous and apprehensive about the upcoming transition to college, they may intentionally, I mean, even if it's subconsciously, but not checking their UK email, or not putting a lot of effort into preparing for the college transition, just because they're nervous about it, and that's normal too. So as I said, as we were getting started, just support their independence, give them the encouragement and reassurance they need. Sometimes you might have to just walk alongside them as they figure out how to get these tasks completed. We're all supporting each other through this transition. I know a lot of families are trying to figure out their role in Big Blue Move-In, and so I would encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to consider your plans based on when your student's move-in appointment is, if they're living in our residence halls. We encourage families to talk to their students about how long they would like them to remain near campus. For some of our folks who live, relatively close to campus, it's not not a question, but I know many of our out-of-state families struggle with how long to stay because you want to be available to your student, but I think at the same time, you don't want your presence there to serve as any kind of deterrent from them connecting with others in their residence hall or taking full advantage of the K-Week events. And so I encourage you to, as you think about those move-in plans, to consider that balance of being available for them, but also not getting in the way of them acclimating to the UK campus. And you may just want to have a conversation with them about how long they would hope for you to be around. I also have, seen families who have kind of gotten their feelings hurt because their students were so excited to get started with K Week and with meeting people that they were kind of like showing their families the door. And so I'm a big fan of having those expectation setting conversations in advance. So that's move-in, that's talking about finances, that's talking about family weekend and all sorts of things. Speaking of family weekend, I encourage you to talk to your student about, whether they would like to see you at family weekend. We suspect the answer will be yes, but again, making sure you're getting on that same page. And registration for this fall's family weekend actually opened this morning. So we've been excited by how many folks were right there, hopped on the Cat Chat family community and went ahead and registered. So I would encourage you, Kate put the website in the chat. I would encourage you to start by going to the Family Weekend website and taking a look at what all will be going on and talking to your family about what's of interest to you. We love seeing families for family weekend, but we understand that some families may not be available that weekend or may want to come at a different time. Different families have different priorities. So we just encourage you to talk to your family about what's most important and just make a plan for when you'll next see your student at some point during the fall semester. And as I have mentioned both at orientation and already today, have those expectation setting conversations. Maybe that can be part of your weekly check-in. You can kind of sense how your student is feeling about talking about the upcoming transition. And you can even use today's webinar, some of the future Cat Chat Live topics to say, hey, I heard a story from a student who said this, how do you want to handle that? I'm going to put Olivia on the spot and see if she wants to share any of the ways that her grandparents supported her in her transition to UK.
Yeah, so my Nana, love her so much. She definitely kind of let me fly. She was the one showing me the door almost. Um, and while I really did appreciate all that freedom and independence, it is a little scary. So while the typical recommendation that you kind of hear not from UK but kind of just general among society is like your student shouldn't come home for 6 weeks just so they can like kind of get adjusted and acclimated to it. But that doesn't mean that you can't visit them or you can't, just pop in for a quick chat or call them. So me and my grandma, we did a lot of FaceTimes while she was, kind of not letting me come home, even though I did, I did want to just a little bit. But I'm very glad that she didn't let me come home because I feel like I have really built a life here for me at UK and found a great group of people to kind of be my family here on campus. Yeah, thank you, Nancy.
All right. Well, that is the majority of our slides that we want to present. We'll certainly leave you with contact information as we wrap up, but we would love to hear what questions that you have for us. I know that McKaylee and I don't claim to be experts in every one of these areas of campus life, but we work very closely with a network of amazing campus partners that help us get the information about all these areas. So I feel like McKaylee and I know enough to be dangerous. We know a little bit about a whole lot of things. So hopefully we can answer your question, but otherwise we'll make sure we connect you with campus partners who may best be able to assist you. So please use that Zoom Q&A feature to start dropping your questions in there, and we will take as many as we can in our remaining time. While you all are hopefully typing away, want to make sure that you have our contact information if you need to reach McKaylee and the team in the Office of Orientation. You can email orientation@uky.edu. And if you need to reach our parent and family team, you can always reach us at parents@uky.edu. Kate is always Johnny on the spot and getting responses out to parents and families And a lot of it is doing kind of what I was saying, connecting with folks with campus partners who may best be able to assist them. And as we mentioned at the start of today's webinar, this, the checklist kind of that we have been going off of today is available with some additional details at orientation.uky.edu/what's next. All right. So, got a few questions already coming in. So Daniel says, my son's getting emailed to participate in events now that happen before August for UK Invest. How does he do that and yet still earn credit? So Daniel's asking about our Big Blue Start program. Michaela, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I'll go for it. So the Big Blue Start program for the summer, since yes, they are not on campus, is all through Canvas. So Canvas is UK's learning platform. They can access it at uky.edu/Canvas. But in that, he will have been added to a course called Big Blue Start. Within this, there are different videos he can watch. There are kind of pages he can click through and work through, and completing those videos, watching those videos. He might have a quiz at the end to just make sure he watched the video, but all of that earns him credits. Credits is a strange word to put it, but they're each kind of weighted differently. So one might be worth basically 10 points, and 10 points is equivalent to $10. And so there's a different breakdown of within, there's kind of four main areas that Invest and Big Blue Start work in. So within financial well-being, academic well-being, belonging, and then health and wellness. So within each area, and this is all explained in his Canvas course. I think I'm getting in the weeds here, but he can earn up to a certain amount of dollars in credits. So then when he activates his UK Invest account come August, that then credits he earned will then equate to actual dollars in his brokerage account come once UK Invest sets. So Canvas, uky.edu/Canvas, he will see that Big Blue Start course, and he just works through that course to earn the money.
Thank you, Michaela. Next question I see is, are dining plans expected to change with the new company? So depending on if folks have been familiar with campus before, we are in the midst of a dining transition. We have a new partner starting with us today. And so we have been experiencing kind of the early days of the transition. I know when we got to Champion's Kitchen earlier this week, we could see that they had been busy over the weekend starting to bring in some new dining concepts, new recipes, new signage. So it's been fun to see all of the improvements coming our way. And I know that there is more to come, that they have big plans for us. So I have not heard of any changes happening to the dining plans. I think knowing that this transition is happening as we're getting started for the new school year, I haven't heard any plans of changes. Michaela, how about you?
Again, I know a little bit to be dangerous, but from my knowledge, the plans are not changing, but really excited to see kind of in the dining options, in terms of the restaurants on campus, the different stations in the dining halls. Those might update just a little bit. I know Nancy mentioned we've gotten to try it out. It actually started, the officially launches today, but the past 2 days in Champion's Kitchen, one of our dining halls, some of those new lines and food options have been available, and I had pasta yesterday that was really good. So I'm looking forward to that again. But the meal plans themselves, in terms of the like swipe options versus flex, those are not anticipated to change, but some of those kind of restaurant offerings might change throughout campus.
Yep, and we'll be talking to UK Hospitality about everything related to meal plans, flex dollars, all of those things 2 weeks from today on July 15th. So would encourage folks to check that out to get all of the details. All right, so our next question, Allison's asking, was there a link to sign up for the on-campus notifications? What was it called again? So I think Allison's asking about UK alerts. So I know for folks on campus, we get UK alerts through the Safe Zone app. So that's our students, our faculty, and staff. Kate has put in the chat the link for families to be able to sign up for UK alert. I would encourage you, I know Olivia talked a little bit about her Nana, kind of making double extra sure that she got the UK alerts by sending them to her as well. And but I've also heard of families who I think regretted signing up for UK alert, particularly if they were really far away. I mean, A lot of times when it's used, it's severe weather. Those things don't always happen during regular business hours. And so I've talked to families who were like, I was in California and awoken in the middle of the night by a UK alert that there was severe weather in Lexington, and that really stressed them out, particularly if they couldn't reach their student. And I've definitely heard stories over the years where the students were like, I was asleep. That's why you couldn't reach me. Like it was fine. But sometimes I think that families feel like the UK alert stresses them out if they're not close enough to do anything about it. So some families have chosen not to receive UK alerts, and that is fine. Some families want to know all the things. I think that's probably the type of parent I am as well. And so I just want folks to know that we can't control when UK alert goes off and to anticipate how you may respond accordingly. All right. So Heather just asked, I've heard at move-in that there are students at the curb with carts to help unload dorm items we're bringing. Is that correct? For all dorms, and is there a weight limit? Do we need to bring a dolly for the heavy boxes? Michaela, do you want to tackle that one, or do you want me to get into move-in a little bit?
I can tackle it a little, but I also was going to look at Olivia, who went through this. If you want to start out, and then we can add in.
Yeah, I can. Absolutely. So I just moved into my dorm this past year. So that was my, freshman kind of move in, and it was really fun and exciting. But it was also very smooth. UK has a really great system for move in, I feel like. They do have those volunteers that will help you load stuff into either a cart or kind of a wagon. It depends on the dorm of what kind of style, but you won't have to bring necessarily a dolly for any heavy boxes because each dorm does have like kind of a system of how to move those more heavy things up into your dorm room, as well as volunteers to help you out if you aren't kind of wanting to, lift all that just by yourself. I will actually get to be one of those volunteers for Shelgren Hall. So if your student is moving in there, you might see my face helping you out moving in. So
Thanks, Olivia. Yeah, I've seen that some folks say that they like to bring a dolly or a cart if they have one, because then they don't have to wait in line to, sign out one of the ones that UK has. But we also have plenty, so that's not something folks need to like go out and get just to be ready for move-in. But we'll walk step by step through the entire Big Blue move-in process with the housing team on the 13th. That's always one of our biggest Cat Chat lives that we do. But I also want to point out that we do a little bit later in July, we talk to our Office of Residence Life, because I think families, particularly in the anxiety of the initial transition to college, really are so focused on move-in. And I like to talk to the Office of Residence Life because they're the ones living with the students day in and day out all school year long. And so their Cat Chat Live webinar is going to be more about that day-to-day support that students have in the residence halls. And so I know folks are so interested in move-in, but we do want folks to be thinking about the whole school year and the big picture there as well. I don't see any open questions right now. We have a few minutes left, so we'll give folks just another moment or two to ask things that they still may be in the process of typing. Olivia, I know you're serving as a first year experience ambassador right now, and we're a few weeks into our summer Big Blue Nation orientations. What question has surprised you the most that you have gotten from maybe an incoming parent or family or even a student?
So, I wouldn't say I have been surprised by any questions. I feel like a lot of the questions that we get are kind of very similar. So I feel like our most asked question more so is going to be more like, what is it like living in the dorms, actually? Because everyone wants to know about those residence halls and all that. And I would say I had a really great experience. That Res Life staff, like you mentioned, they are living with us day in and day out. And they're a really great resource for students, especially that resident assistant that is going to specifically connect with your student, as well as that resident director. So my biggest advice when it comes to dorm life is to build those connections with that staff inside of your dorm. As a student, just kind of find the people inside of your dorm that you enjoy hanging out with, as well as that staff that are going to become your support system and people you can lean on. Thank you.
That's great advice. So Sean's asking, he says, my son's move-in date is August 18th, and if K-Week starts on the 19th, does he get to stay in the room the 18th? So students have move-in appointments based on a variety of different factors. It may be living learning programs or other needs that require a slightly earlier move-in. Sometimes it's just about trying to, kind of play general traffic cop and make sure that everybody has their 30 minutes of curbside time without causing gridlock for everyone. So students do, once their move-in appointment is passed, yeah, students stay in the residence halls. Occasionally I'll hear of a student who, says maybe I want one last night in a hotel with family, whatever works best for them as long as they're starting to make strides towards connection. But yeah, K-Week will start the evening of the 19th. And so we see students, it's amazing once move-in starts, the activity levels pick up around campus, and we see students using their time to do a variety of different things to start figuring out what classrooms, which buildings their classes will be held in, or iPad pickup will have started a little prior to K-Week. And so we see students heading over to the Cornerstone to pick up their iPad. So there are definitely things that your son can do to stay busy before K-Week gets started. Olivia, did you have any other kind of those early days things that you were doing as you were getting settled on campus?
Yeah, so I did move in quite early because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm an honors student, but I also lived in a living learning program. So I did move in a little bit earlier than than some students. So I attended those Lewis launch events because, like I mentioned, honors college. I attended those Lewis launch events as well as just walking around campus and kind of checking everything out. I even got lost a couple times, but don't worry, I found my way back. Um, I kind of just explored UK. I tried out the dining hall, kind of all those kinds of things. When you're just getting adjusted to college life, it's good to just walk around and be on your own. And that's really all I did is just walk around.
Absolutely, yeah. You can tell what students been up to because they either have their bag that has their iPad in it, or you can see if they found the Target over just off campus, over on the north side of campus. So Target bags, or folks who ventured down to the Kroger on Euclid Avenue. So yeah, that you start seeing activity, and we like seeing the students out and about. That always is a good sign to me, instead of students who are maybe in their rooms, feeling apprehensive about the transition. All right, Jessica asked, when do the dining halls open to access meal plans? So dining halls, in many cases, never shut down. I mean, Champion's Kitchen this summer has more limited hours, but we have still been, as McKaylee mentioned, we've been enjoying some of the new recipes and new options starting there this week. So I believe meal plans start on the first day of move-in. We'll confirm that when we talk to the UK hospitality team in a couple of weeks. But the other thing that is important to note is that so many of those K-Week events and just opening of term events do offer free food and free stuff, things for students to take advantage of. And I know folks have heard us say this at orientation. You may recall us saying that the word on the street about K-Week is that if you pay for a meal during K-Week, you've done something wrong. So meal plans will be an option, but there will be so many opportunities for students to go to events and activities and get free food as well. All right, I'm seeing no more open questions, so I'm gonna give all of our folks here a chance to share any final words of wisdom or parting thoughts. Michaela, do you want to go first?
Just want to say thank you for joining in and checking in. I think it's important the summer is always an exciting time for the students. I know it was kind of the last go around with some of those hometown friends, but also still being aware of things coming down the line is very important. And so Nancy talked about some of those conversations. I encourage to push your student to have that, even if they get wrapped up in the with their friends, but also allowing them time to have that last little go around with their friends. But staying on track, tuning into this is a great first step, and so appreciate you all doing that. But please feel free to reach out with any questions. I know it's one of those that we've kind of been apart since Merit Day or from Bluegrass Day, but we are still here as a resource for you. Our contact information is on the slide, and so orientation, parents, and families. We want to still be a contact to help answer any questions that you have during this time or be able to send you or refer you to who will be the best contact. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. We want to support you during this time.
Olivia, you've shared some really good advice and insights based on your experience. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Yeah, so like McKaylee said, just absolutely reach out if you need any help and have those conversations with your students about what they're planning to do when they're coming to campus, as far as involvement, dorm life, all those kinds of things. Just have those conversations now so that you kind of don't have to, kind of do a little damage control before anything. Just work it out and have those conversations just so your student is on the right path before they even come to you.
Thank you so much, Olivia. It's always fun to hear from our current students who are so generous in sharing their own lessons learned throughout this process because it is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And it is not always smooth, even though we do our best to make sure that it is. As always, want to thank Kate for being behind the scenes. She was on top of it, dropping those links in the chat. And so hopefully it's given you some, reading material for later, all of these websites that we encourage you to review. I hope this was helpful for you today. I hope you'll make plans to check out future Cat Chat Live webinars. And as McKaylee said, don't hesitate to reach out if we can ever be of assistance. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day and go Cats. Bye, everyone. Thank you.